I welcome you all in the King's Academy. Myself Priya and I will be teaching you science subject, and our today's topic is plant morphology. So before starting with plant morphology, I would like to ask you one question. What do you understand from the term morphology? What do you understand from the word morphology? So morphology basically means the external characters. When you look at something or someone, what did you understand? What did you observe externally from them? So that is known as the morphology. So in today's class we will discuss about plant morphology. So plant morphology basically means when we look at the plant, what did we observe from the plant directly, and what are those organs of the plant, or what are those parts of the plants that we clearly seen or observed, right? So basically in plant morphology, what do we see in the plant? We see roots, we see stem, we see leaves, we see fruits, and we see also flowers, right? So let's start. Firstly, in this plant morphology, we will discuss about roots. Right? Roots. So you all have heard about roots, and you all are well known about the functions of the roots. Like, what is the main function of roots? How does the root perform their function? So basic or the main function of roots is the absorption of water and minerals, so that they supply all these waters, minerals to the plant and helping the plant growth, right? So basic function is absorption. So we all know that the basic function of roots is absorption. Now the question arises, how many types of roots exist? So basically there are two types of roots that exist. One is taproot and another one is adventitious roots. Tap roots and adventitious roots, right? So before I elaborate these terms, I would like to explain you that roots are the part of the plant that it helps in the descending growth of the plant, right? So which means that the over the surface of earth and the behind portion or the descending portion of the plant, that remains under the soil is called as roots, right? And roots could be in mangrove plants, roots show this positively or negatively geotropics, which means that roots come above from the soil and starts growing over the surface, right? Now tap roots and adventitious roots. Okay. So in taproot, we need to know that in taproot there is a one basic root with around there are small thread-like structures are closing out, right? And in adventitious roots there are long threads-like structures that are known as roots coming out, right? So in taproot there are the basic examples are carrot, radish, right? I would like to write over here. These are the examples of taproot in which there is one single main root, and over the other there are some fine particles or fine thread-like structures are coming out of the root that are known as taproot. And in adventitious roots there is no fine or stable formation of a root. There are simple thread-like structures all hanging from a single branch, right? So the next part of the plant that we are going to discuss is stem. Stem. So what is stem? We all know that stem. Let me draw a diagram over here. This is the surface of soil. And and there is trees like this, right? And this portion is known as roots and this portion is known as stem. So which means that stem is the portion of the plant or the part of the plant which grows upwards over the soil, right? So this is known as stem, and stem shows positively geotropic, which means it grows in the it grows over the surface of the soil, and it also shows this photoperiodism. Stem shows the movement of the plant towards the light, which is known as the photoperiodism. So this phenomenon means that plant is growing towards the light. So from where the light comes, the plant goes on that direction, and this process is known as photoperiodism, right? So stem, or there are some underground stems like potato, like potato, like ginger, sweet potato, so these are the example which shows us that stem is not only the portion which grows only upwards. Stem can be in the soil, right? So these are the examples like potato, ginger, rhizome, and so many other examples are also there, which indicates that stem also lies within the soil or inner the soil, beneath the soil, right? And the another part is, the third part of the plant is leaves. This is leaves of the plant. So what is the main basic function of the leaves? So main basic function of the leaves is that leaves helps in the process of photosynthesis, because leaf has the small pore-like openings called stomata. These small cells which are called stomata. These stomata are present in the leaves, which helps in the photosynthesis process, and there in this stomata there is the presence of two guard cells which helps in the opening of stomata and closing of the stomata. In most of the plants, stomata opens at daytime, and in some of the plants stomata also opens at night time. Okay, so leaves helps in the photosynthesis. Photosynthesis with the help of stomata. And stomata has having small pores. Small pores, right? And after this, the another part of the plant that is known as flower. Flower is that part of the plant which helps in the reproduction. So which means flower is basically divided into four parts, that is known as calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. These are the four main basic parts of the flower. Calyx and corolla are the non-reproductive parts of the flower, and this androecium and gynoecium helps in the reproduction. यानी कि androecium is the male reproductive part of the plant and gynoecium is the female reproductive part of the plants. So let's discuss androecium and gynoecium in detail. Androecium consists of anther and pollen grains. Anther and pollen grains. While gynoecium Gynoecium, which is also known as female reproductive part, it consists of stigma, style and ovary. Okay. So this anther and pollen grain is the part yani ki which is known as male organs or the male reproductive organs of the plant, and stigma, style and ovary, these are known as the female reproductive organs of the plant. When pollen grains with the help anther stores pollen grains, anther is used to store the pollen grains, and at the time of fertilization process these pollen grains reach stigma, style and then they reach ovary, and over there they got fertilized and then they produce zygote. So now discuss this reproductive part which is known as fertilization. Fertilization, when male reproductive organ and the female reproductive organ comes together, fuse together, and then they produce a new organ or the new substance that is known as zygote. Zygote. This is 2n in number, which means it is having 1n chromosome from parent side and 1n chromosome from maternal side, right? This is called as fertilization. But double fertilization is also seen in plants. Double fertilization means when one anther and when one pollen grain fuses with the ovary or the egg cell, when one pollen grain fuses with the egg cell, it produces zygote, right? But when another pollen grains or when another male reproductive organs fuse with the polar nuclei, when it fuses with polar nuclei, it also form another, yani ki it also form another zygote, which means that there is double fertilization. One zygote directly from male female and one extra zygote when it is fused with the polar nuclei, right? This is also known as syngamy. After this zygote is formed, then there is the formation of fruit. Fruit is known as the ovary part of the plant, or it is also known as the ripened ovary. Ripened ovary is known as the fruit of the plant, and in some cases and in some plants there are the cases where no fertilization exists, because there is direct from ovary to fruit, and that process is known as parthenogenesis and the parthenocarpy. No fertilization, from ovary to fruit, direct, without any interference of male organs. Ovary to fruit, and this process is known as parthenocarpy. And the most important example of this parthenocarpy is banana. Banana is a parthenocarpic or parthenogenic fruit which comes from ovary direct without any fertilization. So this is called parthenocarpy. And now when we are talking about fertilization, we need to know in plants there are two types of reproduction. One is self and other one is cross, which means self-pollination or cross-pollination. So when we talk about pollination, we need to know there is two types of pollination, self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination occurs when the male part of the plant fuses with the female part of the plant of the same flower. when the reproduction occurs on the same flower, this is known as self-pollination. And cross-pollination occurs when male part of the plant fuses with the female part of the plant of another plant, not of the same plant. It occurs in different plants and it occurs in same plants, which means male and female are present. Male and female are present on the same plant. Male and female are not present on the same plant. I have put this cross over here, which means that they are not present on the same plant, right? So this pollination also requires medium. Yeah, which means that this pollination either grows through wind, either goes through animals, either goes through water, right? So when pollen grains from male part of the plant reaches the female part of the plant with the help of wind, it is known as anemophily. Anemophily, with the help of wind. Hydrophily, which this means that when pollen grains of male part of the plant reaches the female part of the plant with the help of water. And when the male or the pollen grains of the male part of the plant reaches the female part of the plant with the help of insects, that is known as entomophily. Okay, so hydrophily, anemophily and this entomophily. Anemophily with the help of wind, hydrophily with the help of water, and this entomophily with the help of insects. So I have already told you that there is the formation of the fruit, right, which is from the calyx, corolla and androecium and gynoecium. When fruit comes from direct ovary, this is known as parthenocarpy, and when fruit comes from the fertilization, this is also known as simple fruits, aggregate fruits and the complex fruits. But when fruits comes from the ovary without fertilization, which means when fruit comes from calyx or corolla, form fruit, then this type of fruit is known as false fruit. Okay, when calyx and corolla forms fruit, then this type of fruit is known as false fruit. When the fruit directly comes from ovary, then this type of fruit is known as parthenocarpic fruits. And when fruits come from both male and female, which means when fruit comes from complete fertilization, then this kind of fruits is known as simple fruits, complex fruits and the aggregate fruits, right? There are many parts of the fruit that we eat. We eat endosperm, we eat thallus, and we eat mesocarp of some plants and some fruits, right? So these differs from plant to plant, like what part of the plant we are going to eat differs from plant to plant. So this is what our today's topic is about, plant morphology, and I hope this topic is clear to you. Thank you and have a nice day. If you have any query, you can ask me. Thank you.